Well, it's a very good evening to you on a Monday night, and welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you all for joining me. I wish I could be a little bit happier with, the end of the this round of the Premier League and now the World Cup coming up. Wanted to really be happy about the World Cup and, hoping that West Ham were going to take us out on a high with the last three games of this current part of the season, all at home, expecting to win all three, not winning one of them. And it was quite a shock, and it was really sad. But I'm going to get on to David Moyes and the team and everything and what happens next in just a short while. Talk about what happens next with Moyes. Is the board, we heard that the board is going to back him, but where does he go from here? What does he do with regards to how he's going to pull it round, etc.? But what we'll do a very brief update on everything else first and get it out of the way. And then we'll go straight into the debate, shall we? So let's start off with a little bit of player news. So Nikola Vlasic has been at it again. He's been quite impressive for the Serie A side that he's loaned out to Torino. The Croatian midfielder scored and assisted a goal in a 2-0 win over Sampdoria last Wednesday. And then he did it again by 4 days later. After being named in the World Cup squad for Croatia, he helped the team to battle to a 1-1 draw against Roma. Two positive results for Torino, who are now 9th in Serie A and maybe looking up to maybe European competitions for next season. There's an awful lot of talk about Vlasic and that he's going in January. Well, the answer is no, he's not, because as it stands right now, we're paying a part of his salary. So for Vlasic to actually leave in January kind of doesn't make sense for Torino, because they'll have to take over his full salary, or they'll have to negotiate it anyway. So it looks like he won't be leaving until the end of this season, but it looks like Torino are very, very much well placed to get the player on a permanent for around about £13 million. So well done to him. Is he something that we're missing in the Premier League? Many people would argue we've got a missing link between our midfield and attacking play, and Vlasic is beginning to prove that you play him centrally and he could probably do the business. Other players out on loan. Jason Knightbridge for Harrow Borough recorded a 2-1 victory over fourth place Paul Town on Saturday. The 18-year-old keeper featured between the sticks, picked up the 5th win of the season for the Southern League Premier League division team. Manny Longello is continuing his form, although there was a defeat against Sunderland at the weekend, 2-1 defeat. Longello played the full 90 minutes in that game and continues, despite the result at the weekend, continues to impress. Armstrong Oko-Flex also played 20 minutes for Swansea, who drew 0-0 against Huddersfield at the weekend. Dan Chesters and Port Vale's Mipo de Becco and Newport County's Thierry Nevers were all subs for their relevant teams, but none of them really fared that well. Port Vale were 15th in the league now after a 4-0 drumming at Oxford United. But at least the players on loan are getting game time, which is important. Some player injury news. As we know, Maxwell Cornet, he didn't make it back. As stated on this show, that he wasn't due back until after the World Cup. We're hoping that we're going to see him in the friendlies when they're played against Cambridge and Fulham coming up at the end of December. So we look forward to that. Emerson, he's pulled out of the Italian squad for their friendlies against Albania and Austria after sustaining a broken nose last week playing for West Ham. Saeed Benrahma, he's been called back into the Algerian squad after showing, really good form for West Ham United over the past few weeks. He's back in the Algerian squad to play Mali and Sweden in their forthcoming friendly internationals. Vladimir Sufal and Thomas Souček are back in the Czech Republic squads to play their friendlies against the Faroe Islands and Turkey as well. And one more player on international duty, apart from the players that have gone to the World Cup, of course, is under-21s goalie and penalty hero Christian Hegyi, who will be joining the under-21 Hungarian team to play Turkey and Azerbaijan. So as you can see, we're not just the 5 players that we've gone to that are going to the World Cup. We've got a number of players that are going to be on international duty over the next couple of weeks for their respective international teams, which means that David Moyes is going to get the holiday that he's been talking about, and very much needed. And then they'll be back in a couple of weeks. Well, the players, apart from those who are on World Cup duty, will be back to start getting things right for West Ham United. Another player to talk about is who had an interview recently was about mental illness was Mikel Antonio. He was talking about mental illness a couple of years ago, where he was in and out of the team. 1 minute he was playing, the next minute he was not, which kind of started to give him a bit of depression. And he wasn't sure whether he wanted to continue playing football anymore, and was looking at potentially retiring. I think it's quite brave for a footballer to come out and talk about how they feel about mental illness, etc. And all praise to him. We've heard 1 or 2 stories about Antonio's temperament behind the scenes, but not that we'll talk about that. But it is fantastic to hear. It's brave, should I say, to hear a footballer talking about things like that. Right, what else have we got? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the under-21s as well, because they had a significant game at the weekend against Spurs, and they played. They got their second win of the season in Premier League 2 with an absolutely fantastic strike deep into first half injury time by the man of the moment, Ollie Scholes. We got a free kick just outside the box and he curled it in superbly. And then in the second half, earlier in the second half, I talked about penalty hero. We could have done with him against Blackburn Rovers, I think, Christian Hegyi. And we also know that Fabianski also saved the penalty. It's strange that Areola didn't get close to one of those 10 penalties against Blackburn, but let's forget about that. Christian Hegyi in the same game against Spurs early in the second half pulled off a fantastic save from the penalty spot, so well done to them. Now that's the second win of the season for the under-21s. It takes them just above Spurs, who are now bottom of Premier League 2. But hey, rather them there than us, eh? Now, Harrison Ashby, the forgotten man, or God knows what's going on with him, maybe he's back in favour because he was captain of the under-21 teams last week. Could it be that they're looking at renegotiating his contract after all? They still talk about Newcastle being interested in him, but why make him captain of the under-21s if he was out of favour? Let's see what happens with Ashby over the next few weeks. The next game for the under-21s is against Feyenoord in the Premier League International Cup, who West Ham haven't been doing too well. Last time they played PSV and we got thumped 5-0. So good luck to them. That's on Tuesday night. No under-18s games, and I'm sure you'd be disappointed to hear no women's games to bring you up to date on because their women are out on international duty at the moment. Now, there are a load of transfers to talk about, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm not going to talk about the likes of Tammy Abraham and various other players being linked to us because I'm going to do a special show on that this week, probably on Tuesday, so look out for that. So I'm going to go straight into the conversation of the moment, I guess, and that's all about David Moyes and the team. Before I do, let's go in and say hello to people in the chat, shall we? Because I normally do that earlier than normal, so my apologies. Good evening to you, Foxes. Well, he has 6 weeks to sort it out. Well, a little bit less than that with all the international friendlies going on, but certainly it should have enough time. We've got 2 friendly games lined up against Cambridge United as well as Fulham. Interesting, playing Fulham in a friendly part, but good. I think they'll be good. Certainly Fulham will be a good test away from home. Good evening to you, Howard. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Mr. Pepper. Good evening, peeps. Glad of the break. Yes, I must admit, I am glad It has been rather depressing. It'll stop me pulling those few strands of hair I've got out. Good evening, Graham. How are you? Canada awaits your words. I don't know if I've got any words of wisdom. I'll tell you something, mate. I won't lie. It's been really hard trying to put a show together tonight and trying to pick the bones out of what's going on, because you know me, I try to be positive and I try to always talk about the positive aspects and keep talking about, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But even I've been teetering the last week or so, and I just don't, I'm going to go through what I think. And, no, not many people will agree. Some will, some won't. But this is your forum to sort of have your say as well. Good evening to you, Keith. I hope you're well. Mr. Bartlett, how are you? I hope you're well. Hammerhead, how are you, mate? I'm here a little bit late. My apologies. Usual suspect. How are you? Bang on time? Always bang on time. Like I always say, you lot are always early. Got a sparrow to you, Keith. I hope you're well. Steve, how are you, mate? As our fellow experts tonight. We're all experts, aren't we? Well, we're all punters, aren't we? Neil, how are you, mate? 7:35 in the morning. I hope you're well. Did you get any sleep last night, Neil? Good evening to you, Lee. How are you? What's going on at West Ham? I enjoyed it. Thank you for enjoying my shows. I hope you're enjoying them more than the football that's been played lately. But anyway, usual stuff. I've got the names of the two players. I've got the name. What two players? Oh, yes, I think we know. Do we care? Good luck to them. Don't matter, does it? Does it matter? Good evening, Paul. How are you, mate? Black Country, how are you, mate? Not bad for me. Only 5 minutes late. There you go. See, things always get better. I don't know about the football, though. Good evening, Garino. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Good evening, Clive. How are you? Thanks for the message, mate. I haven't had a chance to reply, but good luck with it, and I hope everything goes well. Let me know how it goes, by the way. Ralph, how are you? Evening to you as well, mate. Mr. Lockwood, how are you? Get him out now, please. The football with the quality players we have is atrocious. 1 point off relegation. Worst start for over 30 years. Can't deny it. The facts, the stats are the stats, aren't they? Good evening, John. How are you, mate? Oi, oi, Poch and Touch have given us the Spanish. Not true. But anyway, stories are stories, aren't they? Whether they're true or not. Why? Apparently it's not true. We haven't approached anyone, but there you go. That's half the show gone. Andy, good evening to you. Moyes in or out, fella? Look, it's difficult because, at the earlier in the season, I talked about Moyes and I said, look, if we're languishing down the bottom of the table or if we're in the bottom three, I would be very much, sort of back in, I'd understand that people will want Moyes out. I am so torn. I really am, because when I've been writing the script for this show tonight and looking at the other managers as well that are available, I mean, you make your minds up, because we got a number of problems. Obviously, we've got a number of problems. We've got problems in defence. We've got problems at scoring goals. But the irony is, you look at one or two of the games that we played, well, a few of the games that we played so far this season, and you can't say that we haven't had, we haven't been doing things in midfield. We've actually been creating, and I've got some stats that I'm going to go through, and I know people will shoot them down, and say that I'm just trying to sugarcoat everything and so on and so forth. But I'll show you the stats and then see what you think. Garino, where's Greeno? Hope we have some scouts watching players like Vlasic and Paquetá, etc. at the World Cup. We might learn something. That's interesting, because that's part of what I'm thinking. How are these players going to play, and what will we take away? I mean, we should know what these footballers are all about, because we went out and scouted them and bought them, because of the style of play that they play. Paquetá, where will he play, etc., etc. But I know what you mean. I know that sounds weird what you said, but you're absolutely right in a way. Clive, I'll take care of all and any wrong uns posting. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Garino, when you have players like Allaire, Anderson and Vlasic playing well post West Ham, and players like Paquetá doing well for their countries, you have to ask why they can't and didn't do it for us. Good call, and let's see if we can pick the bones out of it. Usual suspect. Best player in the championship, Hannibal at Birmingham. This kid is going places. Not heard the name, but very interesting. Good evening to you, committee. How are you? I hope you're well. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Epic. Antonio should retire. We've all got differing opinions on that, haven't we, Andy? Bet money that Cornet won't figure in any friendlies. I think it's something like a calf injury that he had a recurrence of. So let's hope he is back and ready in time for the friendly games that are coming up. Good evening, Lee. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Andy, what a free kick from Scarles too. Yeah, fantastic goal. Fantastic free kick. Jonathan, is this to blame Moyes? Is this to blame Moyes? He does this to many players, taking them in and out of the team, dispute their form. Yeah, about all the players that are now playing better. You buy players, you do have to play to their strengths, don't you? And we're going to, I'll come to that in a moment. Let's go through a bit more about the comments here. Good evening to you, James. How are you, mate? Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Daniela. How are you? Garino, for your good talk on Hammer's chat today about the Moyes situation. Glad that the World Cup is on so we can focus on something else. Yeah, they do some good shows, those lads. So well done to them. Good evening to you, Victor. How are you? X said Ashby will not be signing a new contract. Well, we that's the last that we heard. But my question is, why make him captain of the under-21 teams if something's not, maybe there's something favourable going on. We don't know. But when I find the information out, I will bring it to you guys. Ed, good news roundup. Much appreciated. I did that quick, really fast. So my apologies if you missed anything. Dodsey, how are you, mate? Trust all is well. All good, mate. It's a little bit cold here, but all good. Have you heard any news about us approaching other managers? So who? Well, yeah, I have heard the news, just like you have, mate. And my understanding is none of it's true. John, special show. You mean lies, damn lies, and no special, no lies. I promise you. I'm just going to give you what I think. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I just have an opinion, like we all have. James, a jolly good evening to you, Mr. Saying hello to everyone. Usual suspect. Is it rumours or nailed on that Poch was approached? It's rumours. Unless I hear otherwise throughout this show or any time this week, my understanding is, as far as it goes at the moment, it's rumours. There has been no approach for Pochettino or for Tuchel. And my understanding is if you can't approach them, they can't turn you down. But I know what we've heard earlier today is apparently both managers have turned us down. If I hear otherwise, I will tell you. But before I went online, before I went live, I asked the question. I was told, no, absolute rubbish. So, things might change. But as far as I know at this moment in time, there has been no approach made for either manager. Dodsey, is it any truth that Antonio fell out with David Moyes? Yeah. No, there's no truth in that. Apparently, he had a virus. So there you go. You already know the answer to that, Dodsey. This is why I love the channel style, trying to keep things positive. Well, I try. But even I'm sure I'm gonna fail at some point. Henry, good evening to you, mate. We need a flair manager to get the most out of our world-class players. Souček will get dropped as he can't control the football, and Downs will come in. Here's an interesting point about Souček. Before the game on Saturday, Souček was his stats were one of the players with the most tackles in the Premier League so far. I think it was third or something. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Now, look, we know what Souček did for us before, sort of attacking player, getting goals, appearing in the box at the right moment, getting onto headers, etc. Our play, crossing has been abysmal, so there's no headers to be getting on the end of. And we are creating chances, but not the sort of chances that Souček has been renowned for getting on the end of. And I don't know. Souček has been doing an awful lot of the dirty work lately, but stuff like that goes unnoticed, doesn't it? I'm not sticking up for him. I think, certainly he's had a bit of a downer this season. He's not the only one. Bowen, has had a bit of a poor season as well. Several players have. And Souček's only one of the few that have not been playing to the level that they can. Bowen, like I just said, is another one. Good evening, Cockney. How are you? Has he gone yet? No, he's still there, mate. Well, he's on holiday, I think. Good evening to you, Ballon. It's far too easy to score against West Ham at the minute. Agreed. The commitment of the forwards in the key moments doesn't suggest they are playing for him. Ben Rama apart, which is ironic. Interesting point. Worst start, James, since 1976. And who was our manager then? Oh, John Lyle. Garino, busy with new rescue. Yeah, we are, believe it or not. It's on its way at the end of this month. If West Ham played with as much passion as the Moggy has for food, we would be top of the league. Good evening, Jerry. How are you? I still think there are so many so-called world-class players that wouldn't cut it in the Premier League. I would have loved to have seen Messi playing in it to see. Yeah, good point. Not all players that we regard as top class players will do it in the Premier League, will they? It's a very good point. Ralph, watched the Hammers chat earlier on, 45 minutes long. Absolutely brilliant touches. All points reference Moyes, but he has to go now sooner than later. He's going anyway. Well, we don't know that. Have you a script? Well, bullet points. There you go. Bullet points. Epic. Good evening to you. Moyes has lost the dressing room. Well, we hear that an awful lot, but I just don't know if that's true, because nothing has been substantiated with that. No one has come out. Well, of course they won't, but we hear an awful lot about losing the dressing room, but I'm just not sure. You could be right. But I think that's more speculation than anything else. I'd absolutely take Dyche, but I think we would have the quality and money to go for Pochettino or Tuchel, as long as the board is willing to spend. Well, spend. They have spent. We have spent a lot of money, and I know there's an awful lot of talk about, we wouldn't get rid of Moyes because we don't want to pay him off. After spending 160 million pounds, did they pay him off by what, 4 or 5 million? Is that really going to make a big difference? I'm not so sure that it would, to be quite honest with you. Daniela, I think other sites and news people are saying we approached other managers hoping Moyes will walk. That's a good point. I just don't think there's, like I said earlier, my understanding is there's no truth in having approached Pochettino or Tuchel or anybody else for that matter. Committee, Dyche equals shit football and relegated Burnley. Why would you want that? Interesting point, because I'm going to talk about, what do we need in terms of improving? All right. It's obvious. We need to improve on our defense. We need to improve on our goal scoring, but which is going to be more important, and which is the board going to think is going to be more important, and what are they going to go for? And when we look at the history of what's happened with West Ham United, when we've had problems with other managers, who have we gone for to fix it? The man in charge at the moment. Kent, good evening to you. I'm now Moyes out still. I've defended Moyes to the hilt, but Saturday was one step too far. We're in trouble. We had a better squad in 03 and went down. Moyes was on the side Saturday with no inspiration. Yeah, get it, mate. I understand why people are now, but isn't it ironic? And, I know results matter more than anything else, but isn't it ironic that we actually played better apart from the 2 goals that we conceded? I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds stupid, but the game itself, I was looking at the game thinking, how are we not scoring? How are we not in it? And I think that's the thing that's keeping me sort of hanging on. And I don't know if I'm Moyes out or Moyes in anymore. I'm sort of like Moyes whilst he's with us, I guess, if that makes sense. Cockney, stats, we have won only 5 league games in 25. That kicks all other stats in. Yeah, I know results matter, Cockney. You're absolutely right. Good evening, Mark. How are you? The reliable Chelsea journalist Matt Law has said today that Tommy Tickle would be prepared to take the England job after the World Cup. Really? Do you mean Thomas? The reliable Chelsea journalist Matt Law said, do you mean Thomas Tuchel will take the England job? Would he? Or are you just winding me up? Vino, Moyes is out. GSB official line is that Moyes will stay, but they're putting out feelers for a new manager. I think all clubs owe it to themselves. I'm not suggesting. Got to be careful. I've got to be careful here as to how I put this, because I'm sure all clubs will consider other managers, coaches, players, and all that sort of stuff. Have they made an approach? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure yet, unless I can be told otherwise. Kind of like semi-officially. My understanding is that no approach has been made. Will they be considering it? I wouldn't be surprised for a minute if they've had a conversation about it. But they have come out and said that Moyes has got, they're still backing Moyes. John, are we in for that young Brazilian centre back? Apparently we are. Whatever. But yes, putting him in goal, I wonder. Keith, what the fuck is it with West Ham? We've managed to either turn good players bad or maim them. Jason, good evening to you, mate. The darker the night, the brighter the dawn. Was calling for Moyes sacking on and off since the Everton game. However, good times, bad times, I'm feeling on reflection, we should stick together. Good shout, mate. Good shout. It is difficult. Like Kent's just said, he's been backing Moyes up to now, and and now he can't find himself to do so. It is difficult. It's just it's a hard pill to take. 3 games that we needed to win in the last week, just before the World Cup break, and losing all 3. Losing against Palace at the last minute was a kick in the teeth. Losing conceding a late goal against Blackburn, and then taking it to penalties. Well, you're in the lap of the gods there, aren't you? Anything can happen when it goes to penalties. And then the game against Leicester. I mean, we actually played better in the game against Leicester than we did against Blackburn and against Palace. And yet we were on the receiving end of the wrong result again. It's weird, isn't it? Ballon, experts don't have to be an expert to realise the team would function much better without Souček. Yeah, fair play, maybe. All I was saying was that he's been doing a lot of the dirty work that people don't realise. But, you know, I agree his passing isn't great. But then I will counter it again by saying he's not the only West Ham player that hasn't been playing to their strengths, to be honest with you. Andy, Vinay, they should have started looking and sounding out new prospects after the Everton loss. Good evening to you, Si. How are you, mate? Tuchel has to leave country before visa ran out. Tuchel has to leave the country before the visa runs out. Okay. I don't know. Bill, if Moyes put these signings through his MOT, why do they have these rumours of toxic players turning the dressing room? Well, this is it, Bill. These are rumours. You know, from what we understand, there is no toxicity in the changing room. You know, and then there's rumours about Antonio being dropped because of falling out with Moyes, etc. I don't know. I think when a team's losing, tempers are going to get tempers afraid, without a shadow of a doubt. When teams are losing, they're going to have words with each other, and I think that's right to do so, to be quite honest with you, so long as it's controlled and so long as it's there's something good that comes out of it. You don't expect a team to go into the changing room after losing 3 games in a week and all being happy, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were tempers afraid, but toxicity, I don't know. It's a lot of rumour going on at the moment. Garino, in my opinion, it would be negligent of the board not to start looking and talking to other managers just in case. Good point. Chris, perfect time now to get a new manager in. John, Stell does the best chat coverage. You've got to laugh with it. Well, I'm trying not to laugh because it's a sad matter. Jonathan, is the team so broken that a new manager can't get the best out of them without buying some extra players before we can sort it out? Yeah, I don't think the team is that broken, to be quite honest with you. It's not clicking without a shadow of a doubt. But yes, you could get the impact of a new manager turning it around. Not guaranteed, though, is it? Vinay, the rumor is Benny and Moyes have a toxic relationship. Well, that we can see that without even it being in the changing room. Benny thinks he's messy and undermines Moyes' defensive approach. Onus on Moyes to handle egos, and Benny is a right rebel. Well, we kind of know. You could see the way that Moyes has been treating Ben Rama. You know, when who was getting ready to get on the pitch during the game, I can't remember. When Fornals was getting ready, everyone was saying, that's it, Ben Rama's finished for this part of the season, and he didn't take him off. He kept him on. Good evening to you, Zdenek. Good on you for speaking in a sensible way about Souček, while 90% of West Ham fans thinks he's useless. It's just a load of bollocks. He does a job. It's not the job that we want him to do, you know, and it's not about sticking up for a player. It's about seeing what a player does, you know, and okay, it's not glamorous, it's not exciting, but you need someone to do the shit in the middle of the park. And unfortunately, it's falling on Souček, and he was getting stuck in there. His passing isn't great. I know that, you know, and maybe it was papering over the cracks because he was scoring a lot of goals in previous seasons, but he's been doing a job for West Ham. Is it what we want? Well, you know what? It's really ironic, isn't it? When Souček came off, when he was subbed, then we ended up conceding the second goal on Saturday. Just saying. Coincidence? Maybe. Glenn, Souček must be top of tackles as he's given the ball away too easily and he can't pass the ball. There's the other side to it, you see. Vinay, still, according to my remote viewers, Moyes has lost the dressing room. CIA uses remote viewing regularly. Cockney, players like Scamacca and Paquetá are used to playing with space and more time on the ball. The Premier League isn't like that, and so foreigners take time to adjust. That's a really valid point. You know, and I was going to mention about Paquetá. You know, we saw, especially in the second half, we saw he was trying to thread balls through the eye of a needle. There was one point in the second half where he almost got it through to, I think it was Scamacca, and Scamacca would have been on goal. And just a toe of a defender got it away. And you're absolutely right. Maybe in the French league, in the Italian league, etc., where the game is a lot slower, there is more space and time, etc. Those sorts of passes would split a defense. Just doesn't happen in the Premier League. You know, when Moyes says it takes time for these foreign players to adjust, is he wrong or is he right? You know, because Paquetá hasn't quite done it for West Ham, and yet he's still getting picked. It's not that Moyes is dropping him; he's getting picked unless he's injured. He's getting picked. Scamacca hasn't scored a goal for 8-9 games, but he's still getting picked as well. And maybe it just take a little bit longer than it should, you know. But then you'll argue, and understandably so, you'll argue that another manager can bring the best out of them in a different way. Quite possibly. Chris, 10 defensive players and we never press. We also have 10 players defending corners, including Bowen and Benrahma. But here's the trick, Chris. We weren't playing a defensive game on Saturday. And ironically, when we were pressing against Crystal Palace last weekend and pressing against Leicester the weekend just gone, every time when we were pressing, we conceded goals. So we press and we don't score. And one of the biggest problems, clearly, as we all know, is we're not scoring goals. We're not scoring near enough goals at the moment. Everyone says, Daniela, it's far too easy to scare ages used. We have only conceded 17 goals with 14 teams have conceded more. Yeah, I'm going to get to that. You're jumping. Oh, there we go. Hang on a minute. Let's get rid of Sex Fine. Thank you very much and goodbye. Unless you also all want to click on it. It might be more interesting than this. John Lama is having a German England manager. What the fuck? A German England? Well, we've had a Swedish one. You know, is it time for a foreign English manager again? Vino, the Brazilian centre-back will be Moyes out as soon as he signs, just like Nadim Zahawi, who was Bojo out as soon as he joined the cabinet. Andy, teacher, get a grip. Souček has been dreadful for most of the season. Sorry to break that to you. Too slow. Slows our play down. Shame because I really like him at the start. We all agree he's not the player he was. There's no doubt about that. He's not the player he was, but someone is doing the crap in the middle of the park, and it is falling on Souček to do that. Conan, good evening to you. Not very late, mate. All you missed is the under-21s and playing you, so you can always catch up on that later. Do we honestly think that who do we honestly think would be the best choice for manager that we can realistically expect to attract? Well, that's another good question. You know, we talk about Pochettino and Tuchel, etc. Would they come to us? You know, there's people out there that are saying that they've already been approached and they've turned us down. Would they actually come to us in the first place? I don't know. Garino, I'd argue all three defeats were self-inflicted. While you can't factor for individual errors, you have to question the coaching, in my opinion. Self-inflicted definitely for bloody Palace, where you can't coach a player crossing the ball to the keeper's arms. Antonio did that twice. He did it against Palace a few seasons ago, and he did it again. And then we broke, and we had all the. I mean, there was some like 5 or 6 players in the box who were all waiting for that ball to go to them, and it goes to the keeper, and then we got caught. And interestingly, Palace had 2 or 3 players on the halfway line just in case they broke. You know, the goal against the second goal against Leicester. You know, we slate Souček, but the minute he came off, they went and scored a goal because we didn't have anyone in midfield. You know, so it is self-inflicted. You're absolutely right. Is it coaching? Maybe. Bad. You know, if Souček wasn't taken off, everyone would be going, well, why wasn't he subbing Souček off? You know, why did he keep Souček on? So it's an odd one, Garino. I don't disagree with you. I agree they were self-inflicted, but maybe for different reasons. Ken, on a different note, still, are you doing any of the friendlies before restart? Yes, I will do, mate. I will. I'm going to them. I'm thinking about Cambridge, so long as I can get home at the right time. And certainly I'll do Fulham without a doubt. Yeah, I'll be there for one of the two without a doubt. Garino. David of Lazarus. Thank you, mate. Nice to see you again. Garino, Souček is good if you play his strengths. His stats are very good. Absolutely agree. The problem here, though, is we've been asking him and others to play roles that are not suited, which leaves him exposed. Yeah, fair point. That's a fair point. Jonathan, it would be sad if Benrahma goes before a new manager can come in and make the most of him. I wouldn't be surprised if Benrahma is one of the players that might leave in January. But let's see what happens. Mice Collective. Moyes still manager? Yes, he is, unfortunately. Victor, I'm Moyes out now, sadly, but I don't think he has lost the dressing room. Things like that filter down to the boardroom. That's when the managers get sacked. There will be players talking to the board. Interesting. It'd be interesting to see what happens when Noble returns to the club in January. I wonder if the mood changes then. And I wonder if there'll be more of a cohesion in the dressing room with Noble around. Be interesting to see. And will it, Declan, and I know you're going to say that Declan, of course, he's going to back the manager and not say anything untoward about him. But Declan came out and talked about, the nonsense about Moyes being under pressure. We know that Noble has talked about, a transitional season and that, things don't always go so well, etc. So you got people there. Inspirational people there, people with a little bit of a shout, like the captain of the team, like the ex-captain of the team, who are talking about Moyes in a very positive way, and I wonder if that affects the board as well, and in their decision to keep him on at this time. Trudge, good evening to you, mate. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Good evening, Mandy. How are you? Moyes' tactics are pathetic. The only game this season his size of high press was against one of the best counter-attacking teams. There you go. I hope you're well, Mandy. Jason, Paqueta did a thread ball through to Scamacca in the second half against Leicester. Great player. This is what he's trying to do, but it doesn't always work, does it? Ballon, I don't doubt Souček is great defensively, but in the middle of the pitch, Dawson, Zuma and Souček cannot pass. I agree. But then we have Paqueta and Scamacca who need possession. I agree. It doesn't make sense. You got to, it's the cohesion, isn't it? I think, it's interesting you've picked out Dawson and Zuma, because I agree with you. I think we love Dawson, but I think he's been poor. I think Zuma, an injury waiting to happen. I think my understanding was he was injured before they scored their first goal, so he was out of position. I don't think he's had a good season so far. I don't think Dawson has. I don't think Zuma has. I don't think Zuma has. I don't think Dawson has. I don't think Souček has. I don't think Bowen has. When you've got 4 or 5 players on the pitch who haven't been playing well, you can carry one, maybe, just maybe, but carrying 3 or 4, no. That's a tall order. Who else have we got? Teacher again, Ballon. Souček is a box-to-box midfielder. You have to let him run, tackle, head the ball and make late runs into the box. How many West Ham players are able to score a goal these days? None of them at the moment. Black Country. Well, that's why the board is shit. No ambition from GSB. Look at many years ago. I'm really sort of thrown by this one, Black Country. I won't lie to you, mate. Only because, Moyes has spent in the seasons that he's been with us now, is it up to 300 million? I think I read the other day. He's been allowed to spend a significant amount of money, and the board a few years ago, they got Pellegrini in, because they thought that was going to bring success, and that failed, etc. They've given Moyes carte blanche to sort of like change the, get a scouting network up and buy the players he wants, etc., etc. So this is, yes, historically, when you look at teams like Birmingham, when they owned Birmingham, I get it. And historically, when they came to West Ham United and made all those stupid promises that no one could possibly keep, about Champions League football, etc. And I get that too. But they have spent money. They spent money under Pellegrini. They spent money under Bilic. They spent money under Moyes as well. So what is the ambition? I think, we've done fantastically well over the past 2 seasons, finishing 6th and 7th, etc. But this is a season where it is a transitional season, and it's not about sticking up for what's going on. The results are poor. There's absolutely no 2 ways about it. The results are poor. But ambition, I don't know. Would you buy a club and then not give a shit about it? They have spent money, in all honesty. Good afternoon, Hammer Mulder. How are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining us from LA. What else we got? P. Gads, how are you? Defense is bad. Absolutely. Zuma and Dawson play hurt. Kieran makes a mistake again. Cressy has been good, but now can't cross the ball. Good points. Garino. I think our team selection pre-match is Moyes playing pin the tail on the donkey, as there are so many square pegs and round holes. Are there, though? We've been asking for, here's the thing. We've been asking for players to play, Scamacca to play, Benrahma to play, sort of other players, etc. And Moyes slowly, he's been true to his word. He said, when they're eased in, they'll play. He picked Scamacca. He's picking Benrahma. He's been picking players like still picking Bowen, etc., still picking players that in the positions that they. You look at that team and no one's out of place at the moment. There's an argument about Kehrer. What's he best at? Centre back or right back. He plays right back for Germany. The other players, we've got all our central defenders back now as well with Dawson and Zuma, but they've not been doing it. Souček and Rice in the middle of the park. Then you've got your attacking players. Paquetá. Paquetá is the only one that people are saying he should be playing slightly deeper and maybe playing a 4-3-3. And fine, I accept that. But otherwise, he is actually putting players in the positions that they're best at. Whereas before, I totally buy into that, mate. What you said, he wasn't putting players in their rightful positions. But now he's got the players in the positions that they should be playing. And yet we're still not doing it. Howard, we won't go down. We have European football in the new year. Let's be thankful for what we got. Great players and notes back in January. I still believe that's fantastic. Right. So what else have I got here? So let me try and run through the notes I've got. Look, it's evidence. After 15 games this season, it's not been great. In the 2021-22 season, 15 games in. Let's just stop that there for a minute, so I know where I am. 15 games in the 21-22 season. We were fourth in the league, 27 points with a plus goal difference of 9. 15 games this season, it's a very different story. 16th in the league, 14 points and a -5 goal difference. Look, I'm not going to try and sugarcoat this, but if there's any consolation whatsoever, and someone pointed it out earlier, the goal difference for teams around us are Bournemouth, all right, they've got 2 more points than us, but a -14 goal difference. Forest, 1 point below us, -19. Southampton, -14. Wolves, -16. If there's any consolation, if you can take any consolation from this, you look at those stats and you can say that what West Ham are doing at the moment, we're not scoring, but thank God we're not conceding more goals. We haven't been on the end of any thumping at the moment. Our biggest defeat was ironically against Leicester in the 2-0 loss at the weekend. Now, look, I know it's still not good. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. It's still not good. A defeat is a defeat. But when you look at other teams around us, we are bad, but thank fuck we're not as bad as some of the teams that are knocking on around us. And that's going to count a lot for the end of the season. If we're still languishing down there, I think goal difference could be could mean a lot for us. Look, I know we spent close to 100 odd million pounds for the attacking players that we bought, Paquetá and Cornet and Scamacca, and we've not seen the best of them. People have been alluding to that already. Of the 160 odd million pounds that we spent, we're close to 90, 100 million on the attacking players, and we've not got the best out of them at all. But here's the irony, of the teams in the league this season, we have the 6th highest number of shots in the league, and above us are Spurs, Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City, who are all in the top 5. Now, all right, hold your horses. The 6th highest number of shots. The problem has been, of the 203 shots we've had, only 59 of them have been on target. So that's a poor return. But what it's telling me is, we are creating chances. Clear cut? Maybe not. But we are creating chances. And I said some weeks ago, look, the defense is not good. We know we've got to fix that. The attack is not good. We know we've got to fix that in terms of finishing. If we weren't creating chances, I'd be even more worried than I am at the moment. So when I go back to this stat, a -14 and -19 and -14 and a -16 goal difference, these teams are not creating anywhere near the number of chances that we're creating. We just need to start getting on the end of them. And here are the issues. And it's not rocket science, because there are 2 clear-cut issues that we are creating chances in the middle of the park. They're just not coming off at the moment. But the 2 obvious issues is we're not defending as well as we have been in the past, and we're not scoring the number of goals that we should be. Only 3 clean sheets so far this season, which is poor for West Ham United, considering we sort of lauded ourselves up. The first thing that Moyes did when he came back to West Ham was to shore up the defence. And last season we were averaging. Here's another irony. Last season at this point we averaged 1.3 goals per game conceding. This season we're averaging 1.1. So we're doing shit, but we're conceding less goals. So you work that out. So it's evident that our defense is bad. It still needs fixing, but we need to start scoring more goals. It's obvious, weirdly. I'm not teaching you anything you don't already know. And one thing I think in defense, which I think we've missed hugely, is Angelo Ogbonna. I think it was Kent that might have said it in last week's show. When Angelo Ogbonna went out injured this time last season, give or take this time last season, that's where all of a sudden our defense started to become shaky. We got Dawson, we got Zuma, etc. I know that. And we got a Gerd that's coming in as well. But Ogbonna was kind of the linchpin in our central defense. He was imperious last season until his injury, and we've missed him badly. And I just wonder if we're going to start fixing things at the back. Maybe it's time for David Moyes to start putting a little bit more faith in Ogbonna and start playing him in the Premier League. He's been utilised primarily in the Europa Conference League and the League Cups, etc. But I just wonder if it's now time to step him up, and see how he fares. And I think the two games that we've got coming up, the friendly games that we've got coming up, will give, especially the second one. The first game against Cambridge, whatever, but the second one against Fulham, I'm sure Fulham are going to want to do well and compete in that. And I just wonder if maybe that's where Ogbonna should be given a taste of what would be, although albeit a friendly, Premier League football, and see how he fares, because I think he's been missed considerably this season. And I think having him in central defence might be just the spark that we need. 34 years of age, I know, and maybe he's slowed down because of the injury. There's probably no denying that as well. But I think he's a player that could certainly help. And when you look at our defence, you could start having central defenders coming back like a Gerd, Zuma, and Dawson. But I look at those three, and Dawson isn't great at the moment. Zuma keeps getting injured. And then you got a Gerd who's still understanding what Premier League football is all about. And maybe sort of might take him time to sort of get back in, understand Premier League football. But it's Ogbonna for me that seems to be, of those four central defenders, I think Ogbonna for me would be the one that could maybe make our defense a little bit more solid. He'll have to play a lot deeper. He's not as fast. Well, he never had pace, but he would have to play an awful lot deeper in order to acclimatise to the game that he has to play. But I just wonder whether he is the player that can maybe make a big difference for us. And it was, and you look at Ogbonna's stats before he went out injured. We were doing exceptionally well in the league last season. With regards to our attack, we know what's going on with Scamacca. He's just not getting the service. And what worries me is he's getting an awful lot of unfair criticism at the moment, and people are suggesting, here we go again, Hilaire number 2. I can't buy into that. I was a big Hilaire fan, and for me, I always kept saying, if you play to Hilaire's strengths, then you're going to probably see a very different player. And I think the same with Scamacca. It's really interesting, isn't it? When Moyes came back, he put Antonio up front, played to his strengths and did us well. So then why not afford the other strikers the same opportunity? Why not afford Scamacca, get him to play in a slightly different way? Now, Scamacca's game is he drops deep, he gets involved in the play, pass and move, etc. But I wonder how much better he might be if you just stuck him up front, literally just, don't chase the ball back. You're not another Antonio. Let's play to your strengths. Let's get players around you, like the Benramas, like the Paquetás, etc., and play much more to his strengths. And I wonder if we'd have a different kind of footballer there as well. But my worry is not so much the fault of Scamacca, but we don't have a goal poacher. We don't have a player that can sniff around, off the shoulder of the last defender and get those goals. It was interesting to see a couple of weeks ago when Barmer played, the young player played against Anderlecht, and he played in that sort of role where he was hanging off the shoulder off the last defender and trying to sniff out goals, getting in the box for crosses, etc. And almost did well in a couple of opportunities. And I think maybe, if anything, and if we want to get it right, we need a player like that. That's not Scamacca's fault. I don't think he can play that game, because the alternative, and not many fans are going to like this, the alternative solution to our game in the Premier League is that we go for Route 1 football like we did before. And if we go for Route 1 football, people aren't going to enjoy that at all. Route One football, of course, is putting that Antonio back up front and allowing him to run on the ball and completely voiding the midfield. That means you take Paqueta out of the deal, you take Scamacca out of the deal, all the players that we bought. But I just wonder if David Moyes is thinking about how he can fix it up front. I talked about Ogbonna playing at the back, and I just wonder if David Moyes might end up going Route One. It won't be pretty, but it might certainly get us a few more goals than we've been getting lately. Look, the answer for me to Scamacca is you know, for any player, you've got to play a player to his strengths. I said it earlier as well, Paquetá, you know, the flicks and the passes are just not coming off. You know, he's acclimatized into Premier League football. It's faster, it's quicker. The balls, like I said earlier, you thread them through the eye of a needle. Might be working in the French league, but certainly doesn't come off in the Premier League. And if it means dropping, I mean, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but if it means dropping the likes of Scamacca and Paquetá and playing more direct football, if that's going to get us the more goals, then maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's what we need right now. Look, if we... I'm going to go back to a couple of games that we played earlier in the season and wonder what would have been if we'd have got different results to those games. And there are 3 games in particular for me. If we'd had 3 more points from the games of Forest, Chelsea and Liverpool, I wonder what conversation we'd be having now. Because if we'd have got 3 more points out of those three games, we'd have been sitting in 13th place now rather than 16th. And we would have been sort of 3 points better off than we currently are. So a little bit further away from the relegation zone. And I wonder, going into the World Cup, whether people would have gone, you know what, it's been a bit shit, but 13th place, 16, and the points we got, etc., we'll kind of take it and see what happens. You know, and the reason why I picked those 3 games out in particular, Forest away, missed penalty. What the manager's not at fault for missing a penalty on the pitch, and then all the chances that we had. Chelsea away, a disallowed goal, a perfectly good VAR disallowed goal, and then Liverpool away, another missed penalty. If those 3 points could have made a big difference to the mindset of a lot of fans, you know, still sitting on the wrong side of the league. We shouldn't be on you know, in the bottom half of the league. We should be on the top. But I just wonder if we had 17 points rather than 14 points, the 13th place. I wonder if a lot of people would have been complaining about the position we're in now. When we come back after the break, we've got Arsenal away, Boxing Day, Brentford at home on the 30th, Leeds away. Then we've got another little break. And then we got Wolves away on the 14th of January. And I just wonder, going back to the issue about Moyes, etc., the board have backed him. They said they're going to back him. But I think, and I wonder, if we don't get any results, I think we're going to be looking at, and it's going to be a tall order. If we can get 4 or 5 points from those first 3 games, so getting a draw at Arsenal, big deal, I know. Getting a draw away at Leeds, who are also can also sort of hurt us with their counter-attacking game, and getting a win from Brentford. None of those 3 games are easy. The irony is the games against Palace and Leicester should have been easier, and we didn't do well. But those 3 games could be crucial to David Moyes, and I just wonder what will happen if we do not pick up any points from those. That might be it for Moyes. The board might turn around and say, with the break coming up in between Leeds and Wolves, they might then turn around and say, we've seen no difference. That might be the time when the board might act. You know, so I know people are all saying now's the best time. We've got 6 weeks, you know, get a new manager in, assess what squad he needs, etc. Go into the transfer window in the beginning of January, get players in that a new manager thinks might be needed. But I think this is the other window of opportunity for the board. They would be expecting Moyes to hit the ground running, and no worse place to go to than Arsenal away, that we haven't won away since the Bilic days, to try and get a result. But if Moyes doesn't show that there's a different style of play, a different approach, etc., then it could be those 3 games could really be the nail, the last nail in the coffin for him. Arsenal away is not going to be easy, but if we can get a result from that, that will be a start. Brentford at home, a tricky team, a team that we should be beating, but they always get the better of us. You know, we should be looking for a win. And then if we get anything out of Leeds away, then things might start being a bit different. If we lose all 3 of those games, then I would say that might be Moyes' time up. There'll be 10 days in between getting new manager in. We've still got a lot of the transfer window open for a manager to do some business, and that might be the time when the board might make a decision. You might disagree. I know a lot of people are saying that it should happen now, but let's see. Moyes will have a number of options to make during the World Cup break. He'll have Thilo Kehrer missing, which means that he's got to reassess what Vladimir Coufal and Ben Johnson could do at right back. He will have, I know Areola will be gone, but it's more or less nailed on that Fabianski is our Premier League goalie. He'll have Declan Rice missing, which means he'll be able to see what Flynn Downs can do during that break as well. Not suggesting that Downs would replace Rice, but you've all been talking about Souček and quite possibly looking whether Downs can really step up and start playing alongside Rice and dropping Souček. Lucas Paquetá will be away, and that will give him an opportunity to have other players, Fornals, who I've been sort of screaming out for the last few weeks, who's been on form. And he'll have other players, strikers and attacking players who'll have available to him. Cornet should be back. Ben Rama is still have Bowen, Scamacca, Antonio. He'll have all those players over the next 5-6 weeks to really sort of try and drill some attacking activity from them. Who knows? Let's see. Moyes knows what the players should be able to deliver. The fact that we bought them with all the scouting, etc., he should know what they can deliver. And someone said earlier on about the World Cup, maybe looking at the World Cup and seeing how Paquetá's being used. Is he going to be played deeper or further forward? Seeing how Aguerd's being used. Does Aguerd play better as in a back three, or does Aguerd play better in a back four situation? So I'm hoping that they will have their scouts out there to see what these players are doing in the World Cup. Right, I've said about David Moyes needed a break. It's interesting, some of the words he came out with in his press conference at the weekend. Yeah, of course he's going to be down. We've lost 3 games in a row, 3 games at home as well, and he's going to be down. And he talked about how he works really hard. He's given a lot to this team, etc., etc. And I just wonder if he's going to take a couple of weeks off and ask himself whether he wants to stay or not. Would Moyes consider resigning from West Ham United? I think the man. It's interesting because I asked that in a WhatsApp group earlier tonight, and the response I got was no manager ever resigns anymore, not in today's age. But we know what Moyes is like. He's a man of integrity, and he's a man that will not only question what's going on at the club, he'll question what's going on with himself as well. And would he consider resigning? I don't know. Maybe he might take the decision away from the board. It'll be interesting what happens over the next couple of weeks when he does come back from his break and see what sort of mood he's in then. And then the replacements, we've all heard about it. We've all, the media is going wild about who's going to possibly replace Moyes. And like I said earlier in the show, someone said that both Tuchel and Pochettino have turned us down. You got to approach a manager for them to turn you down in the first place. And my understanding, like I said, is neither of them have been approached. And then you got Sean Dyche. Now, going back to what needs fixing of these three players, you ask yourselves, what is more important in your minds? Do we need to fix the defense, or do we need to fit? What's more important, the defense or the attack? Now, the defense, strangely enough, should be not too difficult to fix. Aguerd coming back, like I said, I think Ogbonna's a big miss, etc. And if you were to look at fixing the defense, then I would think it would be Sean Dyche will come in and try and make that quite solid at the back. But will his football be any more entertaining than Moyes' football at the moment? Someone said earlier, Dyche took Burnley down, so why would you want him? So of the three, who is better? Is it better to have a new attacking coach, or is it better to have a new defensive coach? Now, I think, if you want a defensive coach, you've got one of the better ones already in Moyes. So I think Dyche is out the window. But Sean Dyche is a favourite of the board, or one of the board anyway, the Dame, I believe, or the Baroness, whatever she is. Apparently he's quite liked. Now, I don't know whether Dyche was approached in the past. I think there was a rumour that he was approached in the past to come and manage West Ham, and he turned us down. But he's out of a job now. So would he turn us down now? Who knows? But of the three, I think when I think about West Ham United and what's happened in the past, they've had their fingers burnt when they've gone for a flair manager. They went and got Pochettino thinking it was the promised land. Went out and spent a whole load of money on attacking players, and then we fell flat. And I just wonder if the board would do the same thing. I'm not so sure that they would. I'm not so sure that they would go out and want Tuchel or Pochettino. I think they'll be, for them, it'll be safety first. And I think that's where Dyche comes in. I think Dyche will potentially be, if you're going to replace a manager who's defensive minded to get someone who's defensive minded, it's probably going to be Dyche. And I just think we all sort of shout out for Pochettino and Tuchel. Even if they have been, I don't think they've been approached, but I don't know if they'd want to manage West Ham United. I could be wrong. Maybe they would see it as a challenge. I don't think Tuchel will. Pochettino, borderline, maybe borderline. Tuchel, I think he'll think he's better than West Ham United, and he'll want a bigger team. But all roads lead to Dyche, to be quite honest with you. I don't think West Ham will want to have their fingers burnt with an attack-minded manager just in case it doesn't work out. I think they're going to probably be thinking, get someone in, stabilise the team. Who better to stabilise the team in their eyes? Sean Dyche. I don't know. For me, I think that would be the wrong answer. If you want someone to fix the defense, ironically, you've got a manager at the moment that could fix the defense. If you just say you don't care and let's start scoring more goals, try and start scoring more goals than the opposition, then yeah, maybe Pochettino or Tuchel might be the player that might be the managers for you. My thoughts. Look, I said it earlier. For me, it's a tough one. I don't know what I want anymore, to be quite honest with you. Whilst Moyes is there, I'll support Moyes. When he's gone, then maybe, whoever comes in his place will be the ideal replacement, hopefully. Right, I've talked an awful lot, so let's catch up with the chat. Andy, question: If these players are brought by Moyes, his choices, has he brought to fit into his style of play, or has he brought them with a view to using their strengths to build a quality side? Interesting question. A lot of people saying he's gone out and bought these players and he's trying to get Scamacca to play like Antonio, etc., etc. Now, Moyes did turn around and say pre-season, we need to have a new style of football. We need to be playing a new style of football. We can't be doing the counter-attacking football anymore. And I think he has genuinely gone out and bought these players because he wants a new style of football. Then the big question, Andy, is he's bought all these players and a lot of people are asking, fair enough, he's bought them. He clearly doesn't know how to use them. And that would be a fair point to make. Vinay, transition season is as in waiting for Moyes to make a transition in mentality. I'm sure Moyes will make a road to Damascus-like conversion to modern football. Have faith, it will happen. Shroj, Paquetá is so easily run past. Moyes won't play him deeper. Good point. So let's see what he does with him when he returns from the World Cup. Henry, what happened to Corner? I thought he just had a knock and now has been out for nearly 2 months. I prefer him to Bowen. I think it was a calf injury. I think he got, and it reoccurred again in training. Ballon, anyone notice how far apart Benrahma, Scamacca and Bowen were on Saturday? Not supporting each other, but they must be doing what they're told. But I don't know. Are they doing what they're told? You use your instinct, don't you, as a footballer? Like what was happening last season. Bowen was cutting in, playing alongside Antonio, etc. Scamacca is completely and utterly isolated, and it's weird because everyone's blaming Scamacca for not moving and not running for the ball, etc. He's not that type of player. He plays off people who are close to him, one touch and pass. Let's scroll down. Hammer Moulder. I have to say, mate, the league doesn't lie, but we have been a bit unlucky with woodwork and decisions. We have, but let's not just blame it on that because we have played pretty shit a couple of times throughout the season. Garino, still, Kehrer is in the wrong position. Paquetá too. Downs is a number 10. Downs as a number 10 was an odd one, and I even tried to sugarcoat that a few weeks ago by suggesting he's defending from the front, and I realised how stupid that sounded. Mark, good evening to you. Eddie Howe has no problems integrating new players at Newcastle. Good point. Fair point. I accept that. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Pierino. How are you? Moyes said he's having a break, so I don't see us being much different post-World Cup. Well, he's having a break. And like I just asked the question earlier, do you think he would resign? Do you think he'll really consider his position and ask himself if he's cut out for this now? Is the break, for him to have a thought about what he wants to do? I don't know. Mice Collective. Defensive number 10, Downs. Defensive centre forward, Moyes will play Dawson. I don't get the Downs thing. I must admit, I didn't understand that. Lee, I heard Stuart Pearce on TalkSport earlier. They accounted for the third-year form loss. Get behind the team. Even if you're a Moyes in or out, we should still encourage the boys no matter what. Agreed with that. Delton, good evening to you. Moyes relies on fullbacks to do a bulk of the crosses instead of defending. They've been poor at their crossing, though. I don't know what's going on. Even with our corners, I don't know what's happened. We used to have like one of the best goal ratio for scoring from set pieces, corners, etc. We can't get a ball over the first past the first player, and all these short corners go nowhere. Don't understand what's happened with that. Good evening to you, Andrew. How are you? How long will the board back Moyes? Do we have to wait until Easter, languishing at the bottom before the board realise? The stats mean nothing. We need to score. We don't score. We go down. Agreed. I've said that. Our biggest problem, a problem with defence, a problem with scoring. We are creating. We're just not putting the ball away. And it is frustrating. Eamon, good evening to you. Come the end of the season, I think we'll finish around 12th or 14th. Hopefully we will win the Europa Conference League and we will kick on next season once the team is settled. It's a good point. And a lot of people are hanging on that. And I am as well. And I'm being called a fool for thinking that. I don't know. It's a blip. It's a massive blip and it's a horrible blip, but what if we do start turning it around? Will the board be vindicated if we finish? I said at the beginning of the season, if we finish mid-table 14th, 12th, 13th, 14th or whatever, and we win a cup, isn't that a great season or not? Trudge, if we play with the inverted wingers, that's the job of the fullbacks. Oh, yeah, about the crossing. Yes, but the fullbacks are just not. Kara kind of is all right for crossing. Vladimir Soufal, the minute he gets to the byline, he almost doesn't know what to do. He's just not that type of player. Emerson, he's not being utilised enough, to do the wing back crossing on the other side. Our crossing has been woeful, really has. Ahmet, goal means Jack when we lose against Arsenal, then we are bottom, then we lose to Brentford, morale will collapse, and so will goal difference as well. Yeah, agreed. And I said that. If we do not get anything from the next 3 league games, I think that's maybe where the board might make a decision, because we've got a gap, as I said, from the 4th of January through to the 14th of January between the games Leeds and Wolves away. If we don't get any points, I think that will be curtains for Moyes. James, all goes back to a lethargic window, no pre-season and trying to put them together in the league. Well, it wasn't a lethargic window, was it though, James? Because we heard, and even we sort of heard about all the transfer targets we were after, but sometimes if a target doesn't want to come, you move on, don't you? The thing is, though, we did spend a bit too long, chasing the Lingards of this world, which wasn't great. Committee, Ashby apparently came in with a Stegosaurus femur down the front of his pants. Black Country comes down. Look at the last 12 months stats. Don't lie, mate. It's time for a year. Agreed. I'm not disagreeing with that, and I get it. I'm not suggesting for a moment that things have been great, and maybe it has been covered by the fact that we had such a great run in the Europa Conference and in the Europa League, etc. I do agree with that. Moyes' argument. Didn't have enough players last season. Got players, trying to adjust in the bigger squad this season. What if, like I said, we start the season off in those first 3 games and we get some positive results? What then? But if we don't, like I said, I think that's where it will be different. Ken Anderson, number 10. Allaire didn't feed him. Ended up being one of the best strikers in Europe. Lucas, number 10, not played. Scamacca not being fed. There's a pattern emerging. That is Moyes ruins creative players. I don't know though, Ken. I agree with you normally quite a lot. I think it wasn't just Anderson's job to feed Allaire, and I don't think it's Paquetá's job to feed Scamacca. I think Benrahma needs to. I think Bowen needs to as well. I think you look at your striker and you start. Those attacking players should all be feeding the striker if they don't think they've got a good chance of scoring a goal themselves. Garino, what is annoying me is people getting on the backs of players like Scamacca and Paquetá, calling them duds after 14 games. I recall it took Thierry Henry a season to settle, and they're not bad players. You can't say that they're bad players, but I agree with that, Garino. Andy, the 2 players the 2 players attacking players that Moyes wanted in the summer were Lingard and Broja. Combined league goals scored, none. Combined assists, none. Good job he didn't get his wish, though. And Lingard scored a couple at the weekend, didn't he? Broja, I always thought was the wrong choice. Lingard was really frustrating because I still think he would have done a job for us. I think he's lost at Nottingham Forest. Watch out for the transfer window. Lingard might be available. Did I say that out loud? Mandy, we have missed Fornals league goals. Totally agree. Benny's bones, especially in Antonio, the goals have dried up. What about if we went route one that I said earlier on? How would we feel then? If we went route one and started just pumping the ball up to Antonio, how would we feel? I guess if we started to score, I think we'd feel happy, wouldn't we? Sai, the Sun's supercomputer predicts we finish 11th. I'd take that, wouldn't I? Wouldn't you? I would. Jonathan, last couple of seasons, we scored a lot of goals from defence on set pieces. We did. This season, it's not happening. We're moaning about last couple of seasons now. They're not. No surprise, we're not winning. What has happened? You know, you're absolutely right. It's interesting. There was a point when we were getting goals from everywhere. Midfielders were scoring, defenders were scoring, etc. What's changed? You know, I don't understand, because you look at the setup 4-2-3-1 last season. You look at the setup this season 4-2-3-1. There've been a couple of replacements. Been crying out for them. Benrahma starting, Paquetá starting, Scamacca starting, etc. But we're not getting the goals. Do we go back to what we know from last season? Do we drop all these new players? Do we get Fornals back in and Antonio back in and keep Souček and Declan in the middle of the park and start playing the way we did last season? I don't know. But that's an interesting point. Amit, why do Moyes fans always come up with the suggestion ideas, even when they know Moyes will not use the tactics or formations they mention? Moyes has failed. He has never been able to use top players. I'm not suggesting anything different apart from the players that are in the positions that they play. You know, Ogbonna coming back, I think, is to me, a bit of a no-brainer. We've still got to see what Agerd can do. You know, Antonio coming back in. I'm not Antonio's biggest fan, to be quite honest with you. I'd rather have Scamacca in, but if you're going to play Scamacca, then you've got to have, as people have been saying, you've got to have players playing a lot closer to him and feeding him the ball. Steve, Agristel, he got injured when we beat Liverpool 3-2. Ogbonna, the last game we played really well a year and a bit ago. Yeah, is it coincidence? Kent, I did say that about Oggy. You did, mate. And he makes Zuma play better as well. Agreed with that as well. Can play right-hand side. Yeah, absolutely agree. David, maybe we are poor because we don't have Masuaku. He's injured, mate. He's injured. You know, he's a couple of months out, unfortunately. Vinay, come on, Stel. Ogbonna could turn the season. I'm not saying just Ogbonna. Don't get me wrong, Vinay. I'm not laying it on just one player. Don't misunderstand me. And I said it. Ogbonna has unfortunately slowed down without a doubt. And I said he'd have to adjust his game. He'll probably have to play a lot deeper in order to account for that. And I accept that. I'm not suggesting for a minute that he will be the only player to change the season. What I'm saying is our defense has been bad this season. You know, we're hardly keeping a lot of clean sheets. Ogbonna was great last season. Yes, he will change his game because of the injury, etc. But I just think Ogbonna's stature, I think the way Ogbonna plays could be the sort of player that might settle the defense. I said earlier in the season, one of the reasons why we weren't getting clean sheets was because Moyes had to adapt the squad. There was one point we only had Zuma available, and he of the centre backs, and even he didn't look fit. And he was playing alongside Creswell, was playing as a left-sided centre-back. Johnson was playing as a right-sided centre-back, etc. You know, we had Kehrer in there, etc. He was mixing it up. Now we've got all the central defenders back. It's weird. Our defence looks like it's gotten worse. Now, to me, that means that Dawson isn't quite up to speed. Zuma keeps looking like he's playing through an injury, etc. This is why I'm suggesting Ogbonna. I'm not suggesting he's the only one, but I think Ogbonna alongside the likes of Agerd and Zuma, or Dawson and Zuma, whatever the combination, I think he just settles our defense a little bit more, and we may just get just having the back three with Ogbonna there might be a little bit more solid. But no, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting he'll be the big difference. But he could make some difference in defense. Ralph, still, lots of people mean he's been treated like Allaire. Therefore, like, no, there's a kid behind me, Ralph, at the stadium against Palace last weekend. the amount of shit that Scamacca was getting, he doesn't move, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, etc. He's crap, he's shit. Get Antonio on. Antonio came on, Antonio was even worse. But then ironically, Moyes said we played better with Antonio on. I don't really know about that. Ballon. Anyone who criticises Scamacca should ask how many chances we created for him. And exactly. That's what I think. Exactly. If Ralph, it is if because I don't make the choices. We don't make the choices. This is what we think as, as experts, as punters, but there is something's going to have to change. We've got to we've got to get the defense sorted out. We've got to get our attacking play sorted out. And it's down to Moyes to decide how he does that. But I think players like maybe Ogbonna, maybe doing it horribly and putting Antonio up front and playing route one might be the answer. I don't know. I'd hate it, but if it gets us results, then who knows? Delton, there's something wrong with the coaching. Most of the players need too many touches on the ball when it's not necessary. Is that because, as people have been saying earlier on, they're acclimatized to that in other leagues? In other leagues, you've got the time and space to take 2 or 3 touches, whereas in the Premier League, you've got to move, pass and move, pass and move. Garino, please don't say that still. Playing Antonio in direct not work for a year, so why go back to it? I'm not saying I want to go back to it. I'm suggesting if there's an alternative, it's maybe going back to route one, which I wouldn't like. Paul, the team play and tactics are all too predictable and stay the same all game. Go 1-0 down and wake up and no threat up top as can't hit the target. Yeah, agreed. We can't. Let me scroll down. Who else have we got? Depan, good evening to you. We need Monway, little tiki-taka. Always give the ball to Scamacca. Set Cornet left wing back, and Benrahma replaces Bowen temporary. I did say I didn't think Bowen should have started at the weekend. I thought, he's not been at the races all season. I wondered what he'd feel like now that he's been dropped from the England. He hasn't made the World Cup, and he's been dropped from the England team. He just didn't look. He looks out of sorts all season, and it looks like it's getting worse for him. And yes. If Cornet was fit, I think I would have played him and put maybe Benrahma on the right side. But unfortunately, Cornet is still injured. Vino, now is the best time. You're not convincing me. After Wolves, there will be a narrower choice of managers, Dyche or Allardyce. It won't be Allardyce. It'll be Dyche. It won't be Allardyce. Even the board won't do that to us, would they? Paul, Leeds are lightning quick. They are. We won't live with them. Brentford also fast and good up front. Gooners, they will. They're top of the league. No points incoming. And like I said, Paul, if we get no points from those 3 games, I think that will be it. Too late? Maybe so. I don't know. I think the board will look at it and will maybe even the game, the 2 friendly games that are coming up. If we don't start seeing something different, and even in those 2 friendly games, I wonder what the board might do. But I think they'll wait. I think they will wait until the Premier League restarts and then make a decision then. Andrew, still, the way we're playing, would be lucky to lose 2-0 to Arsenal. Cliff, if they wait that long, who will be left to get then? Dyche. Dyche is probably the one that I think who we won't want, who might be the only one that will come. Black Country, time for a change. Come on, Star, the way we're playing, 3 games, no chance. It's time for a change now, not in 6 weeks. Look, I'm not disagreeing with that. I did say, like I said earlier on in the show, that if we were languishing down at the bottom of the league, then potentially we should be, the board should be considering it. The board have come out and said they're backing him, so I'm thinking if it ain't going to be now, then when will it be? And that will be the next opportunity. If those first 3 Premier League games don't go our way, then that's maybe when the board will decide. I get it. I said it myself some weeks ago that if there was an opportunity to do anything different, it would be now. But I'm just wondering, like I said, let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Moyes is going to be away on holiday, etc. He might make the decision easy for the board. He might come. He might resign. Kent, still, there's no break between Leeds and Wolves. It's FA Cup 3rd round. Yeah, but you know what it'll be, Kent. He'll play the so-called second string there. So yes, there is a game, but in terms of Premier League, there's that break. You're absolutely right. There is a game, but Moyes will probably play his so-called second team in that game. Dave, did we play good Saturday because Moyes has his job at risk? Maybe it's the players that played good on Saturday, because there was a change. There was a definite change in the way we played. He still picked the same team, exactly the same team against Palace that didn't perform, and yet against Leicester we did perform. Still, defeat's a defeat. play good, play bad. If we lose, we lose. Graham, still, who's this Argentinian wonder manager who is out of contract in December? I do not know. If you can find out for me, I'll find out and I'll do a show on him. I'm going to scroll down, so do apologise if I miss one or two of your comments. Smeagol, good evening to you. It just sounds like we're all repeating ourselves. Moyes will not change. He has never changed for anyone in his whole managerial career. He's a very stubborn man. Well, if he is stubborn and if he does do exactly the same as what he did so far this season, then I think those 3 games coming up will be the end of him. Daniela, Ballon Dawson, also unlucky against Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool and Man United. Win or draw these games, that's 4 points to 10 points using that logic. So, yeah, I know I don't want to use the phrase fine margins, but it's fine margins. Like I said earlier on in the show, if we had another 3 or 4 points on the board now, would we be shouting for Moyes out if we were sort of like 12th, 13th position, not great, but not bad? I get it. We're 1 point off the bottom. And we're 1 point off the bottom 3, and I get it. It's not been good, but I just wonder what the thought process would be if we did have 3 or 4 points from some of these games. Liverpool, you can't account. The manager's not on the pitch, missing a penalty twice against Forest and Liverpool, and then a chalked off goal against Chelsea. There are 3 points there that we drop. Our own doing for 2. For missing the penalties, but not our doing for the Chelsea game. Amen. I think Johnson and Soufal are better than Kehrer, and I think Emerson is no better than Masuaku when it comes to defending. You might be right about Masuaku. Kehrer, I feel sorry for him as well, because there's a couple of things, a couple of goals that he's been called out for. I think 1 or 2 of them weren't his fault. Certainly earlier in the season against Spurs, the own goal, he had Son behind him, who would have scored anyway. The penalty earlier in the season, I can't remember what team it was against, when he was left completely exposed. The goal against who was it when we lost? Where he got out-headed. I can't remember who it was now. There were 1 or 2 mistakes, but then I don't think he's the only player that's made mistakes this season. When it comes to Emerson, you might be right there. He might not be much better than Masuaku. Glenn, the spine of the team will be away, so it'll be hard to draw the team without them. This is an opportunity, what I meant, Glenn, about seeing who can do what whilst the spine of the team is away. When Declan's away, he's going to probably look at young Downs and see what he can do, in the middle of the park. I think we've seen it already, but I think he probably wants to see more of Downs. Agerd will be away, but then Ogbonna, use Ogbonna in the friendlies and see what happens. Skamaka will be back. He'll be playing up front. Antonio will be back as well. Paquetá will be away, but then that gives Fornals an opportunity to demonstrate what he can do. Gary, thank you, mate. Thank you for being not overly negative. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. You didn't have to, but thank you so much, mate. Much appreciated. Howard, Moyes needs to listen to Eddie Howe interview on High Performance Podcast. Excellent listen. That's a good shout. I might listen to that one. Trudge. True Depan, watching Creswell press the high was weird. It happened when Agerd came on. What was Depan's comment? I don't know where it is now. Depan, why Creswell always joins attacking line? Well, when you're trying to push for a goal, you're going to get Creswell. Ironically, some of his best crosses come from just inside the opposition's box. So you expect your defenders to overlap. Chris, Graham Lindsay, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about him. Is this the Argentinian guy? Some will say it's Argentinian league, but he's progressive. Won the league numerous times for River Plate. Fans are gutted he's leaving. Interesting. I'm going to have to find out a bit more about him. Let's scroll down. Depan. Moyes has lost the plot when he lost Lingard. Sadly true, because Lingard gave us top standings and ticket to the Europa UEL. He did want Lingard back. Lingard might be available again in January. Chris, they went and got someone in retirement from China still, let's face it. But yeah, look, I accept Pellegrini, was the wrong choice. There's no doubt about that. And it was a knee-jerk by the board. They knee-jerked to go and get Pellegrini because, it was it was at the time when all the process was happening and they wanted a name, didn't they? They just got the wrong fucking name, that's all. But I agree. But Pellegrini has gone to Spain and he's doing all right-ish there. Henry. Dyche said on TalkSport last week that he deserves to manage a Premier League club and will take a job from the Premier League. There you go. Match made in heaven or hell. Eamon, if Moyes does get the sack, I hope that Warburton goes with him. If Warburton is made caretaker manager until a replacement is found, I fear we will go down. Warburton is an odd one. I don't know what he's come in to do. You know, he's an attack-minded coach, and yet one of the worst things that's happening is our attack, and we're not getting the goals that we want. Garino. Mancini would offer the best of both worlds, defense and attack, but doubt he would be interested. Why not? I don't know, Good shout. Italy are out of the World Cup. They're not in that. I think Mancini's talking about he's rebuilding the Italian squad. Has he got unfinished business there? Probably. He might be the sort of manager that want to see out his time at Italy and see what he can do with that squad. But yeah, good shout. Good shout. Let's scroll down. Eamon. Moyes needs to sack Warburton. Nothing has gone right since he joined. Obviously, he isn't the answer. Yeah, it's an odd. It's an odd choice. It really is. I agree with that. Daniela. Depan, Moyes lost the plot when he lost Lingard. I think Man United blocked the transfer. Then Lingard saw money and Lingard did not get us in Europe. We're fifth when we joined. That's a good shout, Daniela. We were fifth when he joined. That's absolutely true. Let's scroll down. Chris, I know, Victor, also because of the way they collectively behave, most managers ruin themselves out without even meeting or hearing them. What did Victor say? I don't know where it is, so apologies, Victor. Whatever you said, you're agreed with there. Foxes. Our back four is shite, and we can't expect players like Soucek Bone to shine. We've got... it's not been great, our back four, I must admit. It's not been great. I want to see what Aguerd can do. And I actually want to see what Aguerd can do alongside Ogbonna. I know I've said it a couple of times, but I want to see what he can do alongside Ogbonna and see what happens there. And also, as been said by Kent, all of a sudden, you've got Zuma playing on the right side of central defence. We might see a very different Zuma, but he does look like he's always injured. Schmeigel, the thing is still, the longer this bad form continues, the least attractive we will look to other players and managers if we sack Moyes. A manager will always want to manage a Premier League team, mate. But yeah, might have a point there. Graham, Moyes will never resign. Turkeys don't vote for Thanksgiving. He would never give up his payoff. Would he not? He's a man of integrity. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if Moyes came back and said, he's done with it and he's finished with it. Ken, no, what I mean, Stel, is Skamaka and Haller not being fed by team and Anderson. Oh, no, what I meant, Stel, Skamaka and Haller not being fed by teams and Anderson and Lucas, both number 10s, not being played right. But Moyes, you misunderstood. Apologies. Yeah, I agree with that. They aren't being utilised in the right way. We always said it with Allaire, that you give the ball to him and he'll score goals. And maybe the same as Skamaka. Agreed. Jerry, I think Menrara and Bowen can take scoring opportunities themselves. Skamaka, the lamppost, according to Marshy, doesn't, it made me laugh, doesn't take any scraps that are given to him. It's not a lamppost. I refuse to accept that. I'm not. We've had the player at 14 games. All of a sudden, people are on his back. No. Epic. When you have a team full of international players, including Brazil's number 10, Italy's number 9, the team can't score from open play. You can only blame the manager's tactics. Yeah, possibly. But it is the manager telling the players to keep away from Skamaka. I don't know. It seems odd to me if that was the case. Alan, Dawson has mentally left the club. Nowhere near the player he was for us last 2 seasons. Good shout. Henry, no one asked, but here's my starting 11. Fabs, Creswell, Aguerd, Zuma, Ashby, Rice, Downs, Paquetá, Cornet, Benny and Skamaka. That will get top 7 with a flair manager, but it wouldn't get it with Moyes. Is that what you're saying, Henry? Let's scroll down a bit more. Excuse me. Daniela. Arsenal fans are convinced with Arsenal at the moment. Spoke to one today and he said they have no depth. Arsenal fans are convinced with Arsenal at the moment. Spoke to one today, they have no depth. So what, if 1 or 2 of their players goes out injured, they're buggered? Martin, how about Scott Parker? No. Honestly, no. I mean, I don't think he did that well with Bournemouth. Why would no? I'm not so sure. That would be the sort of manager, with the greatest of respect to him, even with Mark Noble as his right hand man, who would probably take us down. Andy, common connection with Moyes and Dyche is they're both cheap options. Somebody mentioned on another channel the other evening, Moyes is second lowest paid manager in the Premier League. I'm not buying. I'm sure that's right, but I'm not buying into this that they're not going to bring a manager in because they don't want to pay 10 million a year or whatever. They're paying enough money for some of the players that we've got. They paid enough money to buy these players. Yeah, no, I don't think. I don't know. John, what did Einstein say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. That applies here, probably. But then I would argue, John, is you look at exactly the same team. And I was disappointed. I've been disappointed for a number of weeks that Moyes keeps picking the same 11. And yet that same 11 who have played badly against the likes of Palace, etc., played quite well against the likes of Leicester at the weekend. They almost look like completely different teams. Disabled team, good evening to you. Apart from yours and our league position, I'm good. Thanks for asking. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Hacker, good evening to you. Martello Gallardo is out of... Is that who you're talking about? Martello Gallardo. I'm going to have to look into him and see what he's all about. Good evening to you, Peter. How many ex-Premier League and ex-managers who are West Ham supporters? Sometimes it sounds like hundreds, and there does sound like there's loads of them. Trodge, foreign manager untried in Premier League in a relegation battle. What could go wrong? How's Masuaku doing? He's injured. He's out for a couple of months, apparently. I think he's done his knee again, unfortunately. Green Street, Clive, why don't we just get Souness as Moyes' replacement? Fucking no way. Lee, anyone who think there isn't 9 other teams in the same situation as us, our boys will come good. London is crowned and blue. Let's get big Frank Lampard. Apart from that last bit, do you mean our old Frank Lampard or current Frank Lampard? Apart from that last bit, I'm agreeing with you. Disabled team. One of the biggest problems is a decent manager won't want a relegation battle because it will damage his CV. No one wants a relegation battle in their CV, which is another reason why, if there's anyone that's going to go for this job, it's going to be Dyche. It's not going to be Pochettino or Tuchel. What would we think of that if we got Sean Dyche? Good evening, Alf. How are you? Just imagine when we come back and all players are on fire. Moyes gets manager of the month and we go on a winning streak. Just imagine if that happened. What would the naysayers say then? I 100% agree with you. You've got the same unrealism as I have, Alf. I hope you're well. Let's scroll down. Wondering. Good evening to you. Moyes will not resign, but wait for a sack. See, I don't know. I think there are a lot of managers that would wait to be sacked. I'm not sure if Moyes is one of them. I think there's integrity. I'm not saying he will resign, but I just wonder what must be going through his mind while he's got the opportunity for a break. Peter. Ashby off to Newcastle in January is a refusing new contract. I know, but like I said earlier in the show, he was made captain of the under-21 team. So I wonder what's going on there. I wonder if there's some negotiations going on. Jerry. Sorry, Stel, there are so many people that aren't impressed with Scamacca, so it's out there. I've been a Moyes in for a while, but his time has come. Timing is key. I think Scamacca, we haven't seen the best of Scamacca because he hasn't been played to his strengths. And as people have said, you could argue that that's down to the manager. Yeah, possibly, with regards to his tactics. I just wonder what sort of Scamacca we'll see if he was being played to his strengths. Joseph, good evening to you. Ruben Amorim, Sporting Lisbon manager would be great. How is Sporting Lisbon doing at the moment? I genuinely don't know, so I'm asking that as a serious question. David, good evening to you. Moyes is not going nowhere when we won 5 games in 22 and he's still here. Eamon, seriously, I don't see the big deal in Moyes saying us fans are experts as a dig. To be fair, all fans think they're experts. He must better back it up with results. Yeah, true. What about Marco Bielsa? No. What is it about him that everyone loves? I'm clearly I am missing something because I'm not so sure I saw it when he was managing Leeds in the Premier League, to be quite honest with you. Alf. Yeah, it's a tough ask, but there's still time. Just seems we all need a bit more patience. At least another 5 games to turn it around. Have we got 5 games, though? That's the thing. Andy, top 3 in the Portuguese league. Yeah. And then people will ask, just like they ask with foreign players, and it was asked a moment ago, What could go wrong with a foreign manager coming here in a relegation dogfight? And then what? Right, I'm done. Hour and a half. Thank you all for joining. Much appreciated. Like I said, so just to recap, it sounds like people are saying that Pochettino and Tuchel have turned us down. My understanding is they haven't even been approached. So I don't know where that rumor has come from. Of the three managers currently sort of being linked to us, with the likes of Pochettino, Tuchel and Dyche, I think the big question is, what is it that needs to be fixed sooner rather than later? Our defense or our attack? If you think it's attack, then yes, Tuchel, Pochettino, possibly. If you think it's defense, then it looks like Dyche. You know, will the likes of Tuchel and Pochettino want to come to West Ham United? A lot of you saying probably not anyway. I think if we do, and like I also said earlier, by the sounds of it, it looks like it's Dyche that has the favour. He is liked by the board, and depends on what you want. If you want a replacement and you think Dyche is the one, then fair play. If you think that we're going to get Pochettino or Tuchel, I don't know. I still don't know, to be honest with you. Like I said, I genuinely don't know. For me, I did say, and I will hold my hand up to it and admit it, if we were down in the bottom three or near the bottom three, questions should be asked. And I think questions are probably being asked. My understanding is, as we all know, the board have come out and they're backing Moyes. I think quite possibly if Moyes gets any decent results in the first three games when we're back after the World Cup, then might be okay. If we don't, if we're sort of still languishing after those three games, it might certainly be curtains for him then. Thank you all for joining. My appreciation, honestly, keep me on my toes, but you all have your say as well, because it's not just about my opinion. We're all experts here, aren't we? I really appreciate you watching, listening to my ranting, and I will be back soon. There's a lot of transfers to talk about. Who's going to buy them, though? Moyes or a new manager? But I'll do a transfer show this week and catch up with all the transfers. There's loads of other stories coming out as well. So I will keep you up to date. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all soon.